Mosso. Welcome to Watchbox Reviews, and we're waking up with watches. I hope everyone has the coffee in hand, but you will not need caffeine to raise a heartbeat today. Everything on the table is for sale. Price is in the description. As ever, email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for questions regarding sales of any of these watches. Let's jump straight into one of the greatest Patek Philippe chronographs of the last decade. I think this might be one of the most attractive Patek Philippe chronographs of all time. The Perpetual calendar chronograph reference 5270p, so 5270p, a 2018 launch, the way we wanted it. We first saw the watch back in 2011, and frankly, it was a little bit sterile. Fast forward to 2018 and what I consider to be the definitive version of this watch, and we have a rose-colored salmon-style dial with black oxidized numerals, indices, and leaf-style hands, a platinum case, 41 millimeters in diameter with lovely stepped-out lugs and a concave bezel profile that visually pares down the mass with multiple strong horizontal lines to give the case lateral definition. Now, you can also appreciate the fact that the Perpetual calendar here is easy to read. You have the day, you have the month. Of course, you have a pointer-style date, you have a coaxial moon phase, you have an AM/PM indicator that goes from white to blue and back again, day to night, and then a leap year phase indicator. We are in the third year of the leap year phase. As you can see, next year, 2020, is the Olympic year. Now, the watch features Patek Philippe manufactured caliber CH 29535. As you can see, it is a glorious massive class, a combination of steel and brass. It's fundamentally a manual wind chronograph caliber with a 65-hour power reserve. I haven't wound it nearly enough, but it beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It does feature hacking or stop seconds, and as you can see, Patek Philippe retains a number of somewhat anachronistic elements for its premium chronograph, starting with a non-silicon hairspring. It is a handmade Breguet overcoil hairspring. It is adjusted in 6 positions. You'll also note that rather than the vertical clutch system that you see on, for example, the 5960s and Nautilus Chronos, you have a lateral clutch system that is both more visible and more beautiful. Here's the clutch. You can see that it features a lovely medley of satin finished steel elements. You have jewels set in golden chaton, a fully jeweled clutch, by the way, golden driving wheels, and a black polished and capped column wheel. All of that moving into and out of contact with the chronograph center wheel. When you reset, it keeps no secrets. You can easily see the recentering hammers acting on the heart cam. Now, the watch, of course, all in-house now with a larger movement than back in the day when they used the CH 2770, so it's better suited to the case size. As a result, there are no visual gymnastics on the front to disguise the size of the movement. Perpetual calendar can deal with leap years, can deal with irregular length months, and chronograph needing no description. Pusher feel is excellent. The manual wind detent is superb, and as you can see, the watch is the business on the wrist. A full-size modern men's dress complication. It does have a little bit of a sporty side too, so you can wear this one right up to the side of the pool or the seashore. This is a sporty watch. It is not confined to formal attire and long sleeves. In fact, I wouldn't even think of confining it to the like. Now, jumping into something a little bit different from the other side of the Swiss-German border, let's talk about a Langa Unzona. We didn't have a Langa on the last show, and I think a lot of folks missed the presence of a Langa timepiece. As a result, I bring you the quintessential, and I might say anchor reference for the Langa collection, one of the first 4 Langa models launched at Dresden Castle back in 1994. You can see this is the Langa 1. Rose gold, 38.5 millimeters with a black dial that is solid sterling silver, and then black galvanized to create the black form that you see right here. It is a solid silver dial, so precious metal on the outside, precious metal on the inside. Of course, there is a concentric guilloche style graining for both of the registers. You have the oversized date, which, by the way, features, we will just make sure we are out of the date change zone first. And you see, it's a good thing we did that. It features a pusher adjuster that lets you quickly and easily cycle through the date. Forgive my fingerprints here. I'm working to gather some improved microfibers for the show. The feel of the pusher is as good as a column wheel chronograph. Turn it all over, and you have the caliber L90190 because that's the year work started. After the fall of the wall, Walter Langa reestablishing the company, and in 1994 it bore fruit with the first models. And again, this is the only one of the original 4 that's still in production. You'll also appreciate that it is a 3/4 style bridge in German silver, nickel, copper, and zinc, the copper giving it that golden hue. It is not rhodium-plated Swiss brass, and just to emphasize the difference, you can see what rhodium-plated Swiss brass looks like with the case back of this Patek Philippe 3970R. We'll get back to that in a moment. So you can see unplated nickel copper zinc alloy known colloquially as German silver. Beautiful anglage on the limited periphery of the bridges. Freehand engraving on the half bridge. If we can get that half bridge in focus, you can see it is freehand engraved. And the jewels are set in chaton, fixed in place with blued screws. The watch also has black polished screws thrown on the wrist, and you can see that 38.5 remains a perfect size. It was actually considered fairly large for a dress watch by the standards of 1994, and modern tastes have sort of evolved around the watch, which has aged gracefully. It's still a nice size. There is a Grande Longue at 40.9 millimeters and an older Grande Longue at about 42, but I still consider this to be the perfect size. Done right the first time, as they say. Now we may as well jump back to the watch that I teased a moment ago. This is a 3rd series Patek Philippe 3970R rose gold, a 3rd series watch. So you can see it features the dart style indices and the baton rather than leaf hands. The registers are the same color as the dial, and you have a lovely and orderly perpetual calendar layout. You'll note that the older Lemania based caliber CH 2770 is a smaller movement with a bigger balance and a slower beat rate of 18,000 vibrations per hour. But where it really sets itself apart on the dial side from the later 5270 is in the absence of a aperture style leap year indicator and the absence of an aperture style day-night. You have coaxial indications instead on the 3970. So you have your constant seconds and your 24-hour scale, which you will use to estimate the day-night, and then you have a coaxial chronograph minutes and leap year phase indicator at 3 o'clock. You still have the date and the moon phase down at 6 o'clock. Turn it all over, and you can see this is a beloved nostalgic movement. No, it doesn't hack, and true, it beats away at 18,000 vibrations per hour rather than 28.8. But you give me a choice between this and the 5270, and I don't have to tell you, despite being a white metal enthusiast, which of the two I would take. Nostalgic, evocative, and with roots in the early 1940s, this movement is a modern classic, heavily modified by Patek Philippe compared to the standard Lemania. You get 5-position adjustment with Geneva hallmark finish. You get a overcoil hairspring rather than flat. You get a 65-hour power reserve rather than 48. And as you can see, all of the bridges, as well as the levers and the yoke, have been redesigned and immaculately hand-finished by Patek watchmakers. This is very much a Patek movement with the DNA at its core of the Lemania. Throw the watch on the wrist, and you can see this one features an interesting accessory that's not common to the 3rd series watches. At some point when the watch went back for service, Patek Philippe was asked to fit the watch with a full matching rose gold deployant clasp. Although often seen on the 4th series watches, it's unusual on a 3rd series watch. Of course, all 3970s built, amounting to approximately 4,000 watches from 1986 to 2004, so these are not common. Whereas the 5270 is 41 millimeters, this is a classical men's dress reference, 36.3 millimeters in diameter, 13 millimeters thick, and 43 millimeters from lug to lug. So a wonderful match for a smaller wrist if you're looking for a more traditional size, something that's a unisex option, or perhaps you want an element of discretion when wearing a nearly 6-figure watch on the wrist, and this watch delivers all of the above. Let's quickly jump into Rolex for a moment, because I know people are always wondering what kind of Rolex I will select for the show, and I try to select different kinds of watches. So it's rare that you'll see a classical steel black bezel Submariner. Here we have a 116203. It's actually a combination of yellow gold, as you can see, and I'll remove my fingerprints, yellow gold with a domed bezel that gives it a little bit of a neo bubble back look, and then we have a combination of two-tone with a black lacquer dial and a roulette date. Now the roulette date is fun because, as with a roulette table, we have alternating colors, and the colors are black for evens and red for odd. As a result, you get a more animated date complication than your average Rolex, and of course this watch with a combination of the gloss lacquer dial, the roulette date, and that lovely domed style rather than fluted yellow gold bezel. Truly a handsome watch and a versatile piece. This is two-tone done in excellent taste. As you can see, the watch featuring a lovely 36 millimeter case size and a traditional cushion case profile that is about 44.2 millimeters lug to lug, 45.5 with the solid end links of the bracelet. So if you want the solidity of the Rolex, and you want the heritage of one of the great Rolex watches, the Datejust, launched in 1945, the 40th anniversary or jubilee of Rolex, certainly gives you that. Moreover, whereas the Datejust is often seen on a jubilee, after all, the two were born together with that original reference 4467 in 1945. This one has a sportier look, as the Oyster bracelet, much like what you'll see on a Sea Dweller, Explorer 2, or a Sub, gives the watch a more robust, one might even say somewhat more virile and masculine appearance, a handsome and unusual Datejust. Now, if you want something similar in size but different in character, I cannot think of a better alternative to the watch I just showed than a Cartier Roadster. Now, this is a large watch, 43 millimeters from lug to lug. It's about 50 if you include the solid end links, and it's 38 millimeters from side to side. So this watch wears a little bit like a 41 millimeter round watch. The Cartier Roadster, launched in 2002, is probably the most beloved of men. Of all modern Cartier references. We love the Santos and we revere the history of the tank, but we adore the Roadster. It was probably, for guys, what the Ballon Bleu was for East Asian female audiences. And this timepiece is universal. You could see the track of the dial featuring radially arrayed Arabic numerals, and you can see they are in a staggered large and small format with a pronounced track underneath, much like what you will see on the dashboard of a 1950s Porsche 356 or Mercedes SL, and that's exactly from whence the aesthetic derives. Now you can see that there is a little bit of a sort of bullet tail light or Dagmar bumper overrider for the crown and the crown plinth, and that continues. And note the good taste, no spinel synthetic sapphire here, metal, just like chrome, and there's a lovely overlapping teardrop style magnifier for the date. Now the watch also features screws at the end of the lugs that resemble Frenched tail lights from 1950s American lead sleds. The details here runneth over, and the watch is thin at about 11.5 millimeters thick. It's still 100 meters water resistant, and it features a frankly brilliant quick release bracelet system that allows you to remove the links with a simple fingernail. And more than that, there are accessory straps the Cartier offers in leather as well as rubber, so you can really change the look of the watch. That system debuted on the Cartier Roadster back in 2002, and it's found its way from everything to the 2018 Santos back to the 2014 Iwc Aqua Timer, 100 meters water resistant, powered by a tank tough, very accurate and remarkably thin ETA 2892, hacking seconds and a quick set date. This is an all-around sports watch with plenty of lume and a lovely backstory. Sticking with relatively simple watches for a moment, this is a 2018 modification of a 2017 GPHG Men's Prize winner. This is the Bulgari Octo Finissimo Automatic in steel, and what you're looking at isn't precisely stainless steel. There is a triple flashed coating over the steel of palladium, of yellow gold, and of rhodium, to give it this shimmering silver aesthetic that almost seems to have an inherent luminosity. It has a wonderful, explosive look. Even in the soft light of this studio, it seems to have a radiance welling up from within. Now, the watch remains only 5.2 millimeters thick, 40 millimeters in diameter, only 46.1 millimeters from lug to lug, so it's easy to wear. The bracelet remains nice and slim, and the same treatment is featured on the bracelet as well as the clasp. Inside, caliber BVL 138, automatic winding, 55 to 60 hour power reserve. It features a full platinum micro rotor, and it's sized 36.6 millimeters by only 2.23 millimeters thick, so it fills the entire case back. This is produced in the Vallée du Jeu in manufacture Bulgari, which used to be the Gerald Genta and Daniel Roth manufacture, meaning this is exceptional high horology of the highest order and the purest stripe. A considerable amount of hybrid mechanical and hand finishing here. It's a lot more than you expect on a typical sub $15,000 watch. And of course, when it debuted, it was a record setter as the world's thinnest automatic watch, still remarkably slender on the wrist, broad, flat, and almost flush with your wrist. Once you strap it down, or I should say buckle it down, properly sized, it is almost exactly flush with your wrist as it sits at the same level as your wrist hair, and in some cases even below. This is an extravagant watch that no longer feels as toy-like as the titanium version. So for folks who were put off by this, both for the tone as well as the feel on the wrist, this is a very different watch from the original titanium, though it features the same lovely, softly grained, blasted dial, case, and bracelet. An awesome watch, and one of the true justifications for Bulgari claiming genuine manufacturer bona fides today. Now let's talk about another manufacturer, one that makes watches too often overlooked within the Swatch Group labyrinth. We're talking about Glashütte Original. And back in 2013, the company launched the Senator chronometer regulator, and it is all of those things. Part of the Senator collection, it is a LMET SLME German certified chronometer, which meets the same standards as the COSC, but it's tested as a fully assembled watch. Now, the timepiece is 42 millimeters in white gold. It is a German chronometer. It features a power reserve, a double-digit outside date. There is a day-night indicator right inside the regulator dial for the hours. You have minutes at center, and then you have a large small seconds display, if that makes sense. It's a bit of a contradiction in terms. Now, the watch also features the most precise setting mechanism I've ever encountered. When I hack the watch, okay, we've seen zero reset systems before from Panerai and Lange, for example, but now you can see that it also reverts the minute hand to the next nearest or prior minute, and it actually adjusts in 1 minute increments, perfectly aligned forward or backwards with the minute indices. I've never seen anything like this. It's singular, and it speaks to the attention to detail and original thought that goes into Glashütte Original timepieces. The dial is a lovely satin grained, so it is silver, but it is a sort of granular lacquer, and it's created in Glashütte Original's Pforzheim, Germany dial manufacturer that they picked up a few years ago. So this is a manufacturer product front and back. And my goodness, that case back. This is manual wind. Let's see if we can turn the strap inside out a little bit. Manual wind, if we can go right back. Caliber 5804. Manual wind, extravagantly hand finished. I'm going to remove some of these fingerprints because it doesn't do justice to the movement. 44-hour power reserve, but this one's designed for chronometric precision rather than extraordinary autonomy. You could see the freehand engraving, a little bit different from Lange's because you get through the rhodium plating on top and then you get to the brass underneath. So it has a golden tone within a steel matrix that you, or I should say a silver steel-like matrix that you don't see on Lange. Glashütte stripes, jewels set in chaton pocket watch style, 3/4 bridge pocket watch style, large engine turning perlage on the base plate, and an extraordinary double solar satin graining, as you can see on the ratchet wheel, and this right here is finished by hand, and this is done by a specialist who only makes those wheels. Blued screws, fire annealed in a kiln, a lovely watch that is substantial and secure on the wrist thanks to a meatier than necessary white gold deployant clasp. You can see on the wrist, it's 42. It's a modern full-sized watch, just short of oversized. I consider oversized 43 millimeters and larger. 40 to 42 is about a standard size for today, and the watch has a wonderful shape. So it's about 48 millimeters lug to lug, and you can wear it on a smaller wrist. You can see my wrist, 16 centimeters, no problems there. That is a watch that has a lot of brand character and, thanks to the dial and the movement, a lot of brand manufacturer provenance. Let's talk about a product that has nothing to do with manufacturer provenance, but is wonderful. In its way, the Romagerome Subcraft might be the most purely fun watch on the table tonight. Now you can see, as I adjust, the Agenor engineered jumping hour module of this Alain Silberstein designed futuristic jump hour watch gives it the appearance of an MB&F HM5 for a fraction of the price of an HM5. Now, Agenor has done it all, from the Agengraph chronograph movement used by the likes of Singer, right up to the Harry Winston Opus series and beyond. The company's horological bona fides, as with Glashütte Original, not up for dispute. The jumping hour system is a ton of fun, and it is luminous, so when you charge this watch up, it glows at night. Now, you throw the watch on the wrist so you can read the hour while it is on your wrist, and your wrist attached to your hand on a steering wheel. It's a driver's watch. There is a scrolling minute display. The case is titanium, 40 millimeters wide by 52 millimeters long. It is about 17 millimeters thick on the wrist, but it doesn't really wear that way. There is a Bund-style strap. There were two versions of this watch. One blackened titanium in 99 pieces. You could see Romagerome and the legendary French architect and watch designer Alain Silberstein, who, by the way, has also done collaborations with MB&F. 99 pieces. This is number 8. There were also 99 in silver titanium, but this is by far the more dramatic of the two. A full and wonderfully supple Bund-style leather strap. You could see why, if you could zoom out a little bit, as my hand is on the steering wheel, if you look at me like as though, just get even wider than that. But as my hand is on the steering wheel, I can look down easily and see the time on this watch. I have no need to rotate my wrist away from the wheel. This is a driver's watch par excellence. And of course, this subcraft based on the 2013 spacecraft, this 2015 model is more appealing in every way, aesthetically as well as its backstory. And I have to say, with an Agenor module and what I take to be an ETA base, this is probably the most appealing Romain Jerome watch I will ever encounter. Let's talk about underserved brands on the show. After Romain Jerome, which hardly ever makes an appearance, how about Mont Blanc? Now, they're well known for their pens, but since 1997 they've been doing watches. And while everyone loves the Villeray manufactured Minerva high horology pieces, the standard watches made out of the Leloc factory have come into their own over the last few years, and this is the 1,858 piece 1858 Geospheres. It is a dual-time traveler's watch, and it is dedicated to the legendary feat of the 7 summits, the tallest peaks on the 7 continents. Now, if you look very close to the subdials, which feature rotating northern and southern hemisphere, I guess they're Lampert projections, but you can see little red dots marking the tallest peaks on each of the 7 continents. Now, the watch is a dual time of exceptional character. I measure it 42 millimeters at the case and 43 at the bezel, but you have the ability to change the time locally. There is another time zone in 12-hour format adjacent at 9 o'clock. Now, when you turn everything in sync, if you watch the globes, or I guess the projections, they too move in a 24-hour format. So you actually have northern and southern hemisphere world time that will allow you to see at a glance the hour in the 24 principal time zones. Lovely aviator-style cathedral hands, plenty of lume, in a bronze case. This too is on a Bund strap, and as you can see the case back with the image of Mont Blanc, but you'll also note that if you withdraw the Bund strap a little bit, you see the names, titanium case back by the way, you see the names of the individual peaks, the tallest peaks on the 7 continents. And the watch, as you can see, 100 meters water resistant, so throw it on a water-resistant band, and this becomes a true adventurer's watch. Now, of course, the Bund-style strap, designed primarily for aviators, in which role it was designed to avoid conducting extreme temperatures from the high-altitude environment directly to the skin of the aviator. It also works in extreme cold, such as when summiting Mount Everest, where you are virtually guaranteed to get some sort of a frostbite if your watch is externally exposed and pressed directly to your skin. It's a large watch with an impressive lume shot, as the hands, the numerals, and the globes themselves glow in their entirety. And that is one of the Villeray Mont Blanc pieces. It features a Sellita SW300, which is an ETA 2892 base, so a thin automatic, and then Mont Blanc's own manufacturer, Leloc, sort of GMT world time complication on top of that. So it has a little bit of manufacturer watchmaking provenance, though not nearly as much as you will find at the other great manufacturer of Schaffhausen, Moser. H. Moser and C, right here. You're looking at the Endeavor Center Seconds. Now, this is a watch featuring a 40.8 millimeter yellow gold case, 11.1 millimeters thick. You can see that the case flanks of the Endeavor, remarkably sculpted with black polished concave hollows and vertical satin finish in the center. The bezel concave like a Patek Philippe Calatrava of many stripes, and then the dial with a sunburst galvanized black, and then you have yellow gold indices and hands. Center Seconds, and you can see the 18,000 beat movement with a lovely extended Lancet style, or I should say seconds hand, not chronograph here, we're getting back to Patek there, but you can see it chugs away almost like a pocket watch. Now the timepiece features the Moser HMC 343 movement, twin mainspring barrels, 7 days of advertised chronometric power reserve, but it will run for 9 days, make no mistake. The distinctive double-crested Côte de Genève, or we should call them Côte de Schaffhausen, since we are not in Geneva, but you can see that distinctive finishing across the bridges. There's a handsome chamfer on the edge of the bridges. We have a combination of black polished screws and satin finish across the full balance bridge. There is a solid 14 karat gold escapement that minimizes friction, a power reserve indicator on the case back, a lovely extended swan's neck style click spring, and then you can see that the watch beaten away at 18K, free sprung with an overcoil hairspring adjusted in 6 positions, one more than the chronometer standard of 5. I'm going to clean up the case back a little bit to remove some of the fingerprints and showcase one of the details that I adore about Moser watches, proving that they sweat the details. The watch features a little kerf underneath the crown, so you can more easily dig in your fingernail. Finally, they make all their own small parts through their subsidiary Precision Engineering. The balance, the hairspring, the escapement out of 14 karat gold, all of that is done in-house. Throw it on the wrist and you can see 40.8 and 11 millimeters thick, whereas nice and compact. This is a standard size modern men's dress watch, and the yellow gold with the black dial gives it incredible presence. You can see the curvature of the lugs means that though it's not a large watch, it wears even smaller than it is, so it's compact and I can easily accommodate it on a 16 centimeter circumference wrist. It is not the most impressive Moser on the table. That honor goes to this exceedingly rare Moser Endeavor Perpetual Calendar in platinum. You will not see many of these. An ardoise or slate gray metallic dial. You have a 7-day power reserve indicator. This time on the dial side, you have a little index that points at an hour representing each of the months. So 12 hours, 12 months. So you can see that we are looking at the 8th month of the year, so August. Now it is August 1st. This is a brilliant Andreas Streller designed perpetual calendar system that allows me to adjust it forward and backwards without any hazard. So not only is this a brilliant user-friendly system as well as minimalist, but it also frees you from the year 2100 trip to the factory when every other conventional perpetual calendar will have to go back to their manufacturer. You can see that there is a hacking seconds for the small seconds, white gold hands, white gold indices, turn it all over, and if you're wondering how it's a perpetual without a leap year phase indicator, the leap year phase indicator is hidden on the case back. You can see all of the finishing is the same as on the HMC 343. This is the HMC 341, all of the same features with the minor change of the leap year phase indicator and of course more jewels. It is a more complicated movement and there are more jewels in chaton, as you can see. Also, you get that same kerf for easily digging in your fingernails on the case back, and the watch is the same 40.8 millimeters, but it does have more complexity about its case. You can see on the Endeavor Perpetual there is simply more sculpting, and you'll note this is most pronounced at the end of the bezel. On the platinum watch, the bezel actually expands. It is wider at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock, whereas the bezel is symmetrical all the way around on the standard Endeavor center seconds. Here you could see it's almost a fluid form that's been drawn out from the center, wider at its end and a little bit wasp-waisted at its center, but with those same gorgeous mirror-polished concave profiles. The concave profiles giving the watch a sensational and rather individualist look. From the side, you can't recognize many watches. Moser is one of the few exceptions, distinctive from any angle. Now let's jump to a brand that can easily be described as the best known manufacturer from Schaffhausen. We had a little bit of unconventional IWC on the last show, and the response to that was wonderful. So I'm giving the people what they want. I'm giving the people a little bit more of Schaffhausen's finest, but in unconventional form. We do not have a conventional pilot watch or Portugueser on the table today. Instead, what we have is the extraordinary 2019 Revolution and the Rake limited edition IWC Mark 11 Tribute. This is technically the 3240 reference, the 36mm pilot's watch that debuted back in 2016, but with a bronze case, an olive drab matte military green dial, and no date, whereas the standard pilot's watch 36 has a date. Waco, founder and editor-in-chief of the Rake Style magazine and Revolution Watch magazine, decided that he wanted a dial that was very true to the original IWC Mark 11 of 1948. He wanted a smaller case profile. He wanted a contrast between military green and bronze. He wanted an absolutely antiseptic dial with no aperture or break, and then finally rose gold hands. Now the watch is substantial. It also features, in addition to a surprisingly broad 47.5mm lug-to-lug, it features a strap, a NATO strap, with matching bronze minders, but the strap is made by British leather specialist George Cleverly of Russian reindeer hide that was extracted from the wreck of a 1786 Spanish frigate that foundered in Plymouth Sound off of England. It was recovered, found immersed in the muck, and remarkably preserved over 230 years later, and it was properly processed, cut, and finally colored, stitched, and fitted to this special edition. This is extraordinarily rare leather. It came from Russia in 1786, and in the modern era, it has been cut as thin as salami, such that it is more supple than any textile NATO strap you will ever encounter. With the matching bronze satin-finished minders, they thought of everything, and this watch is a limited edition of 150 pieces. I'll do my best to show you the case back, but they only made 150 of these straps to match the 150 of these watches. Once they are gone, there will be no more, because the material used to create this strap is dear. It is not prolific. It is not common. There will only ever be one of these straps for each one of these watches. A very special collaboration and a design masterclass by George Cleverly, IWC, and of course the Rake and Revolution magazine. Throw it on the wrist. It's a bit bigger than you might suspect because of the way the NATO strap wears. It is a true NATO strap, underslung beneath the case. So while the case is only about 10.6 millimeters thick, the strap raises that to about 14 millimeters. Still reasonable. This is a purist's and a traditionalist's pilot watch. And of course, yes, there is a anti-magnetic inner iron cage around the movement. Now, let's continue with what might be the most collectible automatic Portuguese watch of all time. This is the year 2000 limited edition platinum 250-piece IWC Portuguese automatic 7 days. This is the reference 5000. The debut platform for the caliber 5000. It features no date in contrast to the 5001 that succeeded it. This watch was made for 3 years, 2000, 2001, and 2002, and that is it. Individual numbering, unlike later IWC limited editions. Now, the 42mm watch features an extraordinary plexiglass crystal, as IWC strictly wished to reference the history of the IWC Portuguese, which was largely that of the reference 325 from 1939 until 1993. And this watch continues very much in that tradition. Vertically oriented applique Arabic numerals, dimple-style minutes track outboard, leaf-style hands, and small seconds. You have a power reserve for the 7-day autonomy, and on the case back, the namesake of the watch, caliber 5000, in its first iteration. Before it was the 50,000, the 51,000, or the 52,000, it was a big, slow-beating, 18,000 vibration per hour, traditional pocket watch-sized movement that at inception in 2000 was the world's largest automatic winding movement, a large yellow-gold medallion inside the rotor. And you could see a different regulator than the conventional free-sprung architecture that would later be adapted. And rather than the later 21.6 and 28.8 beat rate, here we have 18K with an overcoil hairspring adjusted in 5 positions. You can see the classic IWC Paul-based Albert Peloton winding system, conceived in around 1950, really late 1940s, implemented about 1950. It is not just an IWC movement. Every part, right down to the winding system, is distinctive of IWC. In platinum, rare, with that plexiglass crystal and no date on the dial, this is a sensational modern IWC, a Portuguese or Portugueser, depending on your particular linguistic preference. It's an elegant watch. It almost captures the elegance of the 1980s reference 5251 giant Portofino, while channeling all that's classic about the shape of the Portuguese case, dial, and bezel profile. I love everything about this watch, and in platinum, you really feel it. Okay. Speaking of the giant Portofino, it gave birth to a large range of 45.5mm IWC Portofino watches from the mid to late 2000s, and that continued in 2013 when we got this reference that you see right here, which is the reference 5101. This is the IWC Portofino hand-wound 8 days. Blue sunburst dial, now we're using a sapphire crystal, very slim and trim as you can see. It pays homage to the great reference 5251. Keep me streaming. Open up Google in a different window, search IWC 5251, and you'll see exactly where this came from. Now, the watch features a sunburst blue dial, applique indices, leaf-style hands. There is an 8-day manual wind power reserve, but all the modern refinements, including hacking seconds and a quick set date. And this, courtesy of an IWC manufactured caliber 52,000 series, and the 52,000 series is a lovely, 59,210 is the 59,000 series. The 52,000 series is the twin barrel 28.8. This is the single barrel 8-day, beating away with a free sprung. Now you can really see the change in the the regulator from the original 5000 through these subsequent models, you could see how much that has changed from the original eccentric screw adjustment system to the true variable inertia free-sprung architecture of the later calibers. But unlike the automatic version, which is a 7-day power reserve, this one is an 8-day power reserve. So you have a little bit more autonomy, and if this isn't an everyday watch for you, you're not going to have to reset it every time you pick it up. Wind it once a week and you're good. Stainless steel, big, broad, flat. The big difference between this one, aside from its general saucer-like profile and the appearance that it's been converted from a pocket watch, and it's that straight lug profile rather than the integrated blended lugs. The form follows function ethic of the 1930s that you see on the Portuguese. Though the Portofino line is newer, it is designed to translate and channel a much older converted pocket watch look than the Portuguese watches. So a bit of historical reference. This is really a nod to the IWC pocket watches of the 1910s that were converted into wristwatches during World War I and the 20s. And that's what the Portofino family has always been. Now, one final offbeat IWC great. This is the 3750. It's a perpetual calendar chronograph with an extraordinary aventurine moon phase. And this is the Da Vinci designed by Hanno Bircher and launched at the Basel Fair in 1985. It was produced through the early 2000s, and it was a flagship piece combining the Kurt Klaus synchronized and mechanically programmed perpetual calendar system with a chronograph. It features a tandem of complications that announced IWC's return in earnest to mechanical watchmaking at the highest level after the quartz crisis. White gold with a double Gadron stepped bezel and those hinge style lugs. The watch features the programmed perpetual calendar, and if you could see, as I adjust it, everything moves in sync. So if you can adjust the date on your Rolex Datejust, note even the moon phase adjusts as I move this programmed and synchronized calendar forward towards the year 2019. There is no need to look up the day date or the moon phase. The watch already knows. It features a plexiglass crystal, as IWC wanted to use a dive watch crystal to clear the stack of hands on the dial, giving it a lovely off-axis distortion that's uncommon on high complications. White gold, the watch has a nice weight, and you can see on my 16-centimeter circumference wrist, those hinge lugs wear really nicely. Absolute comfort. It's also a great unisex option because of its sizing. Let's talk about Audemars Piguet, and let's talk, for that matter, about Rolex, starting with the Royal Oak. These are two classics. The Royal Oak 26124 ST with the 2016 dial. This is a 39mm Grand Tapisserie blue galvanized boutique exclusive, and you can see this one is unusually paired with a full bracelet, as this model was generally equipped with a full strap in rubber. This is an option bracelet, so a very uncommon and expensive way to buy this watch new. It's absolutely the way to pick it up pre-owned, even if you want to throw it on a strap subsequently. JLC 89X base movement, and as you can see, it power reserve, radial date, and a dual time with a second time zone and day-night indicator. Throw it on the wrist, and while it is a little bit thicker than a 39mm jumbo, it wears much like the old and much loved 28360 39mm chronograph, or pardon me, 25360. So you could see this watch on the wrist. Actually, I think it's 25860, that's it. That's the old 39mm chronograph, and this is the 26124. So this is a timepiece that gives you that 39mm chronograph fit at a time when 38 and 39mm Royal Oaks are hot again. This is the way to get back into Audemars Piguet if you've been taking some time out, or to complete your Royal Oak collection if you're looking to dot every I and cross every T. Rolex, the icon, the Daytona. But just as I've given you an uncommon Royal Oak, I'm giving you an uncommon Daytona. In-house caliber, 4130, 3-day power reserve, vertical clutch column wheel. This is the 116519 in white gold. And you can see that it has a different look on a strap with a metal bezel. This is about as far you can get from a current ceramic steel. The watch has a lovely silver sunburst dial with red accents and polished chapter rings, as well as radially arrayed hand-applied white gold Arabic numerals that give it a very different look day or night. Throw it on the wrist, and the Daytona on the strap has to be considered one of the most elegant and versatile timepieces. It's undoubtedly a sports watch, and if you throw it on a water-resistant band, it is 100 meters water-resistant, but it also has a dress versatility and a compatibility with formal couture and sartorial arrangements that maybe a standard steel ceramic with a white or black dial doesn't quite. This is the best option when you're
accepting your end of the year awards following the Tudor series. I guess now it's the WeatherTech series. Remember, you win a Daytona if you win the 24 Hours of Daytona endurance race, but at the end of the year, during the full suit and tie awards ceremony, you want this one on your wrist. Okay, let's see, what else have we got? Glasuta Original and Panerai. We have two examples that feature explosive sunburst dials. In my right hand, you have the Panerai Luminor Power Reserve PAM 93 made from 2001 to 2004, 44 millimeters in titanium. It features a time-only Power Reserve 7750 P1 movement that is chronometer certified. So it's a 7750 without the chronograph, but with a chronometer certification, a date, and a Power Reserve. 300 meters water resistant. You can see this example, I believe, is an F series. Now, 44 millimeters in titanium. It wears more easily than conventional Panerai Luminor because it is so light on the wrist. A lovely and unusual Panerai watch. If you love Panerai, but you don't like the fact that if you've seen one, you've seen them all, get this one. With this combination of complication, satin, titanium case, and explosive, vertically satin-grained blue dial, you're getting a Panerai that looks like none other. Now, throwing the Glasuta back into the spotlight, we appreciate the fact that this vintage 60s panorama date gives you that signature double date with monotone blue double discs and an explosive sunburst dial with a domed profile made again in Pforzheim by Glasuta Original. Now, if you look closely, you could see that what appear to be indices inboard of those lovely 60s inspired quarter Arabics, they're actually drillings. They are etchings into the dial, so they are hollows that have been cut and then black polished at their base to add a three-dimensional glint and glimmer to this dial. Throw it on the wrist, and you can see that the watch wears quite easily. Automatic winding, in-house caliber, 40-hour Power Reserve, stainless steel and 42 millimeters. This is a lovely men's all-arounder, full in size, versatile. You can wear it with anything, graceful, and it has the look, it has the charm. It even has the off-axis distortion thanks to its plexiglass-like domed sapphire to give you the feel of the swinging 60s with the fit, finish, and materials of the 21st century. Where have we not been so far? You know where we haven't been? Jaeger-LeCoultre. We have not been to the great house, La Grande Maison of the Vallée du Jeu, and this is the 1994 500-piece JLC Reverso Grand Tie Minute Repeater, part of 6 500-piece rose gold Reverso complications made from 1991 to the year 2000. The first was the 60th, the 60th anniversary Power Reserve date, and the last was the Perpetual calendar. This one came out in 94. Consultation on the minute repeater, which is one of the world's smallest ever placed in a wristwatch, was done in part by Audemars Piguet Renaud et Papy in consultation with Jaeger-LeCoultre. Let's hear it. This is one that can speak for itself, and I cannot think of a better way to conclude today's show. You know what? Before I do, though, I'm going to give a quick shout out to a brand that is much maligned. As I take ribbing and sometimes make FP Journe the butt of my jokes in doing so. I've ribbed the guy in person as well as in absence on this show, but he has an incredible mind for innovation. And of course, the Resonance is his signature complication alongside the Remontoir Tourbillon. Now, this is a dual-time watch, true, but it's also a resonance system. So 2 separate barrels, 2 separate Power Reserves, 2 separate escapements, 2 separate balances. And they do create a mutual interference that is virtuous. So if one starts running fast, the mutual interference from the other will slow it down and vice versa. So in a way, they self-regulate. There is a little screw and a rack and a pinion system at center that allows you to adjust the spacing between the balances to fine-tune the resonance system. Post-2004, these featured a rose gold movement, bridges and plates 18 karat. And I should mention that pre-2010, they featured a symmetrical dial with 12-hour format on both sides, not the 24-hour format winking watch appearance of the post-2009 model. And because it takes a few minutes for the resonance effect to gain purchase, you could set these hands independently, but you want them synchronized to the second. You use this adjustment system to resynchronize them precisely after about 5 to 7 minutes on the wrist. Now, where I left off with Jaeger-LeCoultre and this full bracelet limited edition Reverso minute repeater. By the way, this is a rare piece. The full bracelet was ruinously expensive and exceedingly rare. Like the Black Label Society,
Fire it up. All right. I think I'm going to wear that one home. Guys, remember, everything on the table is for sale. Prices in the description. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for full details on everything you see here. Thanks to you. Thanks to my crew. I hope the rest of your week is a blast. Time out, Tim out. Thanks for logging on.